G.I. Joe is one of the greatest toy lines from the 80s, maybe even the greatest toy line from the 80s. And Hasbro has not given this toy line very much love for the last 5 years or even longer. And that's all about to change with this new G.I. Joe Classified 6-inch line. So today I'm going to talk to you about the rumored 6-inch line, sort of confirmed, and I'm going to talk about each one of these characters. I'm also going to talk about the biggest issue with the 6-inch Joe line, the vehicles. I'm going to give you my top 10 vehicles they should make. Coming up. So for those of you that have watched my channel, you know that I kind of sold off the majority of my Vintage Joe collection, more or less because it took up so much space and I got a lot of money for it. So, well, not as much as I probably should have. But anyway, looking at this, I still have every figure that's on this list. And we're going to go through this real quick with Duke, Roadblock, 2 Snake Eyes, Destro, and Scarlet. So, let's start off talking about Duke.
If you still want to be a Joe, we'd be proud to have you.
Duke actually makes a lot of sense, and simply because, well, he is quintessentially G.I. Joe. He is like Optimus Prime to Transformers. You really can't have a Joe line without having a Duke in it. It wouldn't make any sense. Wouldn't make sense to me. But that's definitely an awesome figure to go for, to have in the first wave, and I'm on board with it. Next up, Roadblock was one of my favorites growing up. I still have my childhood Roadblock figure. My favorite figure of my favorite figures, so definitely had a Roadblock. I'm excited about this. I'm excited to get a Roadblock in the 6-inch line that actually represents G1 or the original vintage, I hope. The Rock's a great actor, but he didn't portray, well, Roadblock the way I know Roadblock. Next up, the man of less talk and more action. Snake Eyes, it says 2X Snake Eyes. Now, I actually personally think they're only going to make one version, and they're going to pack it 2 per case because they anticipate it being one of the most popular figures. And that makes a lot of sense. But a lot of people are speculating that, no, they're going to make 2 different versions. So I don't think they'll make 2 different versions. I did include that because that's what so many people are saying. But my belief is you're only going to get the one, but it's going to be packed twice. And that's a smart move, I think.
You planned an attack without informing me?
Next up, we have Destro, and I think that's a good choice too. Destro is one of the better Cobra villains. In fact, I think one of the top 3, I guess. But, you know, it'd be awesome to have him and say, hey, we can look forward to Cobra Commander later. That's a great way to go. You wouldn't want to go all of the top figures in your first wave, I guess. But still, he is among the top. And I just really think he's awesome with that shiny head. I wonder if the head will be chrome, like a super shiny chrome. I would love that. And the last one remembered is Scarlet, which I think is a great idea. I mean, having the female characters in there. She was actually one that was hard for me to track down when I was a kid because I really didn't start collecting Joe until this figure was no longer on the shelf. So I had to end up getting her at a garage sale, which actually got her for dirt cheap, like 10 cents or something. How the world has changed, but I think it's a great character choice. Really awesome. Looking forward to having her in the ranks. So a lot of people are questioning, why don't we have Storm Shadow? Which, okay, Storm Shadow is my absolute favorite, and I think we're not going to get Storm Shadow or Cobra Commander or something until down the road. Give us some more to look forward to, and they know Storm Shadow is going to sell. Maybe the Storm Shadow is what's going to carry a wave. Cobra Commander will carry a wave, or something like that. Also, people are thinking that the first wave is so heavy with good characters versus one bad character, because retails like having the good characters because the belief that they sell. All of this is, conjecture and stuff. But we'll find out for sure a lot more of this in 3 weeks at Toy Fair. But speaking about finding out more at Toy Fair, let's talk about the vehicles. So, G.I. Joe as a toy line, the vehicles make up a big part of the toy line. In fact, what would the toy line look like if there weren't any vehicles? Well, I'm giving a top 10 list of my favorite vehicles that I would like to see made for the 6-inch line that are feasible, that make sense, that are not going to be too big, and not too expensive. So let's get right into this. So my first pick for vehicles would be the Vamp, the Stinger. It looks like it's remolded to the Stinger, right? And then there's the Vamp 2. So there's a lot they can do with this one mold, and I could just see them getting a lot of use out of it. Plus, there's a reason to have more than one, and yeah, that would work. That definitely would be a great vehicle. It's not too big. If you look at the relation to the character, it wouldn't take up a ridiculous amount of space. It would take up some space, but not too much. But that's why it's on number 10, because it is actually a little bit on the large side for the vehicles. Next up, we have the Polar Bear. I'd like to see a snow job go with it, or something like that. Maybe a pack-in on that. But this is not very big. It's very iconic. Everybody knows this vehicle. It would be a whole lot of fun to have it out. Plus, most of the vehicles that are on this list, including this guy, has been remade in the modern era at one point in time. So the Skyhawk would make another great vehicle. That's going to be my 8th pick, number 8. And the thing about it is the fact that it is big enough to be substantial on a shelf, but still small enough that it's not going to take up a whole lot of space. And you could buy 2, 3, 4, 5 of these, work them into a display. It would be a great one. And I would think this would hit the $20 price point for the vehicle and then another pack-in figure. So maybe the set would be $40 to $60 for this set, and pretty much all of these, except for maybe the biggest ones. But definitely would be on my list for a vehicle for 6-inch line. Number 7, I have the Cobra Ferret, which this is a fun little ATV. I think it'd be a great one to have, and you could do a whole lot with it. It would be repainted into a couple of different versions, so would make sense and not be too big. Number 6, I can see them doing a Firebat, and they've redone the Firebat also in a set for the 3 3/4 inch line, and so that kind of makes me think it's like top of mind to them also. But you know, we probably would never get a Terradrome for a 6-inch line unless it was like a HasLab deal, which then it would still be probably too big. So having just a piece of the Terradrome, or maybe even just the opening section of this, of the top of the Terradrome, to reveal this guy to come out. I mean, something you could work that in. It would work as a display piece or just the ship by itself. But I always thought the ship was super cool. So I think the Hiss tank is absolutely the biggest, and it's going to be my number 5. And it would be the biggest you can make in the 6-inch line. That would be reasonable. That the price would be reasonable. The display space would be reasonable. I really think the Hiss tank, you got to have it. And maybe have some working treads on it. Who knows? Maybe that's too much. Maybe add to the cost too much. But there's got to be something to it to make it a little bit better if it's going to be in the 6-inch line than in the old school. Obviously, we don't just want to, oversize the one that's already made. But it would be a great one. A troop building, I could see people having 5, 6, 10 of these in the 6-inch line. I could definitely see that. And so that's mine on my number 5. It'd be higher on the list if it wasn't going to be so big. So number 4, I have the Cobra Fang. This helicopter was used by all of the prominent characters and the main characters, so this would make sense to have this. You could have your Destro and your Cobra Commander and just a regular old Cobra soldier in one. And this would also be something that you could have multiples of, like 2 and 3. Heck, they might even sell it in a 2-pack. But it would make a whole lot of sense, and it would not take up too much space on the shelf. And I think that's really the genius behind this, because if you look at the Star Wars mini rigs, people don't like the Star Wars mini rigs. They're not like something fond memories from the show, from the movies, because they weren't even in the movies. This was you always saw one of these vehicles in the show, and you always saw a main character in it, so it makes a whole lot of sense. And it was really smart because this was a low price point. Next up, we got the AWE Striker, and so that one is going to be on my list for number 3, and it's only number 3, not because it's the best vehicle, because it's one of my favorite vehicles in the whole toy line. I have, you can see my picture, I have multitudes of these guys, and so that's why it's so high on my list. The Dune Buggy. Also, you could put 4 or 6 figures on it, depending on how you set it up. It could really include a lot of figure usage. And I really think vehicles, especially this small, that incorporate so many figures that you could have on it, make a lot of sense, a lot of value, and a lot of display value. I'm sorry, 6-inch line, it's not so much about play value, it's about display value. The Claw! The Claw! Max is going to get you. Okay, so number 2 is the Claw, and this is also another one of my favorites. And it's funny that some of my favorite vehicles were the cheap ones from back in the day. Well, because of course I had them because they were cheap, and also the fact that they were in the show a lot. They were just using them all the time. And you'd have multitude of these, plenty of these. And you see that in my little display that I've got going on. And so this would make an excellent 6-inch vehicle and it would be a really good price point. And then they could actually do a little bit more with it, like that gun on top, instead of just sitting there, it would actually move, and a few more things that they could do. The number one vehicle for 6-inch line has got to be, without a doubt, the Trouble Bubble. This is the most unique vehicle to G.I. Joe. It's just so unique. I haven't seen anything quite like this anywhere else. That it's just amazing. I love it. The little bubble looks like the helmets that they wear. But I was fascinated with this back in the day when I watched the show, and I was like, I got to get one of these. And they were kind of hard to find back in the day. They sold really fast. And again, this is a testament to the genius of the marketing that Hasbro had with this, with marketing the cheapest vehicles to be just so prevalent in the video and the show, and the kids just wanted them, and everybody wanted them, but also the fact that the design was so cool. And I just had to keep one of my vintage ones because it is just so awesome. And I would love to have this in 6-inch line. In fact, I'd probably have 4 or 5 of this 6-inch line. It's just that awesome. So anyway, let me know what you think about this lineup. Are you excited about 6-inch Joe? I am. I'm not gonna lie, and I sold off a lot of my vintage Joe, but the 6-inch Joe was gonna be great, and I'd like to see modern interpretations of the vintage style figures in the new 6-inch line. That'll be great. Hopefully the 3 3/4-inch collectors don't get left behind. Hopefully there's something for them. Maybe Jazzwares is for them. Like, subscribe, Tony Hanger out.